The Firefly Queen's voice was like a fading lullaby. Yes, and it will grow, little star, every time you are kind, every time you are brave, and every time you choose to believe in your own light. Then she vanished in a swirl of golden sparks. Ember and Twilo stood silently for a long moment, watching the fireflies dance their way back into the trees. She's very wise, Twilo whispered. Ember nodded. And very busy. She only comes for real glows. Twilo smiled, and this time, it felt warm all the way through. They turned toward the path once more, hand in hand, with the soft forest light catching just a flicker of something new on Twilo's chest. A tiny glow. Growing. That evening, as twilight painted the forest in shades of plum and silver, Ember and Twilo followed a winding trail marked by glowing mushrooms and whispering reeds. Each step felt lighter, as if the ground itself were slowly lifting them towards something wonderful. Twilo's glow had returned just the faintest flicker, but it made the forest see him differently now. Moss cushions fluffed themselves when he passed. Mothcats blinked sleepily and purred at his feet. Even the wind braided itself through his scarf, gentle as a lullaby. "Where are we going now?" Twilo asked. "To the field of moon petals," Ember replied, skipping a little. "It's where the forest tucks in the stars at night. The stars sleep in a field?" "Of course," Ember grinned. "You didn't think they floated all the time, did you?" The trees opened around them like a sigh, and there it was, a meadow wide and silver, bathed in soft light. Thousands of glowing flowers bloomed across the ground, their petals shaped like tiny moons, each one pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. Twilo gasped. "It's like walking into the sky." Ember took his hand. "Come on, help me tuck them in." They tiptoed between the blossoms. Each moon petal yawned when touched, curling into a soft ball of light. Ember hummed a quiet lullaby, and soon Twilo joined her, their voices blending into the wind. Together, they covered the sleepy blooms with feather-light moss blankets. One by one, the lights dimmed into gentle dreams. "I used to do this with the tooth cloud," Ember whispered, "before I came here. But now, I stay in Dreamwood. I help the lost ones find their glow again." Twilo paused, looking at her. "How did you find yours?" Ember smiled gently. "I was scared once. I didn't know how to be bright. But I met someone with a soft heart and a brave whisper. They lit a match in my dark and told me it was mine to keep." Twilo nodded slowly. "And now you do that for others." She shrugged shyly. "I try." They worked until every moon petal was tucked in. Then, as they lay back in the soft grass, the petals began to lift. One by one, glowing blossoms floated up into the sky, joining the stars above. The entire sky looked like it was blooming. Twilo watched in wonder. "Is this how night happens?" Ember nodded, resting her head on her arms. "Each bloom becomes a dream. Some float into the skies, others drift into children's rooms." Twilo's voice was soft. "Can I make a dream too?" Ember turned to him, eyes warm. "You already are." He smiled at that. A real one. Not because someone told him to, or because he thought he should, but because, for the first time, he felt like maybe his glow wasn't just coming back, it was meant to shine. Above them, the moon petals became stars, twinkling sleepily. Around them, the field settled into silence, the kind that only exists when the world is tucking itself in. And as Ember drifted off beside him, lantern heart glowing gently, Twilo curled beside her and whispered, "I think I remember what I'm here for." The next morning arrived with the scent of honey-leaf tea and the sound of bells made from raindrops chiming in the breeze. Twilo woke with his scarf tangled around his knees and dream moss in his hair. Ember was already humming, her lantern heart flickering like morning sunlight through curtains. "You slept like a moonbeam," she said, handing him a cup of tea that whispered stories when it steamed. Twilo took a sip, still drowsy. "What's a moonbeam?" Ember grinned. "A sleepy thing that shines when no one's looking." After breakfast, Ember beckoned him toward a trail that hadn't been there the night before. It was made of smooth stones and lined with whisper reeds that turned their heads as the two walked by. "Where are we going?" Twilo asked, the warmth of his tea still lingering in his chest. To the wishing tree, Ember said with a soft smile. It listens to glows. As they walked, the forest began to change. Trees stretched taller, their trunks braided with starlace and laughter vines. Tiny floating boats made of feathers drifted through the air, carrying messages written on glitter-leaf paper. Every few steps, the wind would pluck one, read it silently, and send it onward with a puff of perfume. Twilo reached for one, but it vanished before his fingers could close. Ember just giggled. Wishes only show themselves when they know you're ready. They soon arrived at a clearing, and in its center stood the wishing tree. It was the oldest thing Twilo had ever seen. Its bark was wrinkled like smiles, and its branches curled around the sky like arms reaching for an old friend. Hanging from every limb were glowing ribbons, each one pulsing with a different light, each one a wish. Twilo stepped closer, awestruck. They're alive. Ember nodded. Every wish comes from a glow. Some are quiet, some forgotten, but none are gone. Twilo reached out gently. A ribbon swayed toward him, brushing his hand. Instantly, a warm tingling spread through his fingertips. A soft voice filled his mind, not words exactly, but feelings. Hope, bravery, longing. This one's lonely, Twilo said softly. Ember's lantern heart pulsed gently. Some wishes are waiting for someone brave enough to carry them. He let the ribbon go, and it floated higher, curling like a sigh. Do I have a wish here? He asked. Maybe not yet, Ember replied. But the tree remembers everything, even wishes we forget to make. They sat beneath the tree for a long while, watching the ribbons dance in the breeze. Then Ember leaned in close. There's something special about the wishing tree, she whispered. Twilo turned to her. What is it? It doesn't grant wishes. It helps you grow into the kind of person who can. Twilo blinked, then smiled slowly. So, the glow we carry makes the wish come true? Exactly, she said. That's the secret. Twilo looked up at the tree, a quiet determination warming in his chest. He still didn't know everything about who he was or where he came from, but he knew this. He wanted to be someone who could make wishes real. That night, back in the hollow tree home, Twilo pulled out a tiny scrap of dream leaf paper and wrote the first words of his own wish. He didn't show Ember, but as he tucked it under his pillow, a soft glow formed in his chest. Not big, but growing. The sky above Dreamwood wore a soft gray shawl that morning, woven with quiet clouds and drowsy breezes. Twilo and Ember had finished their honeyberry muffins and were brushing crumbs from their cloaks when a hush fell over the forest. The trees leaned slightly, as if listening. Even the wind held its breath. Then Ember looked up. It's time, she said. Twilo tilted his head. Time for what? She smiled, tucking a glowing moth into the folds of her sleeve. The river that remembers has begun to sing. Twilo blinked. A river sings? Only when it's ready to show you something you forgot, Ember whispered. Or something it remembers for you. The two set off through a valley of lantern grass, where every blade shimmered in silver-blue waves, brushing their legs with a sound like soft rain. Twilo walked slower than usual. Something about Ember's words lingered like the idea that the river might remember things he had lost. They reached a hollow, where the ground sloped downward into a cradle of fog. From below came the sound of ripples and low, echoing hums. It wasn't music, not really, but it felt like it could become a lullaby at any moment. And there it was, the river that remembers. It flowed upward, sideways, in slow spirals, as if it moved by dreaming rather than gravity. Its waters shimmered with colors Twilo didn't have names, foursome-like thoughts he'd almost had, others like forgotten laughter. Around it, dream lilies bobbed on little hammocks of mist, blinking slowly. Ember kneeled at the bank. Touch it gently. The river listens with its heart. Twilo knelt beside her, fingers trembling just a little. He dipped a hand into the water. The world rippled. Suddenly, he was there in a place made of stardust and soft sky, where tiny bells floated through the air and children laughed on bridges made of comet ropes. He saw himself, smaller but brighter, running with a group of other star children, glowing from within. They were weaving something threads of light. A voice called, soft and aching, "Don't forget us, Twilo." And then, just as quickly, it was gone. He pulled his hand back, blinking, heart pounding. "You saw something," Ember said, watching him carefully. "I was, with others, like me, from the stars." Ember nodded. "You left the sky for a reason. Maybe the river wanted to remind you of where your glow first began." Twilo looked into the water again, this time with softer eyes. "Why did I leave?" he whispered. The river's surface rippled once more, but gave no answer. "Maybe," Ember said gently. "You're not supposed to remember everything yet, just enough to take your next step." Twilo looked up at her, and his glow shimmered faintly beneath his scarf. "It's hard, not knowing." "It is," Ember said, "but you're not alone anymore." They sat there a while, side by side, until the singing of the river quieted into a hum. When they stood to leave, the fog parted for them, revealing a path made of moon pebbles. Twilo looked back at the water one last time. "I'll remember," he whispered, and the river glowed. The moon was still yawning behind the clouds when Ember led Twilo to the edge of Dreamwood, where the trees grew in perfect circles and the wind ticked instead of blowing. "This part of the forest is different," she whispered, as they stepped through an arch made entirely of gears and golden vines. "It doesn't follow time, it listens to it." Twilo frowned. "Listens?" Ember nodded. "The Clockmaker lives here. He doesn't keep time. He remembers it." The deeper they walked, the more the world began to change. The trees swayed in slow motion, and each footstep left behind a brief echo of its former self, like a memory repeating softly in the air. Floating above them were clocks of all shapes, teacup clocks, feather clocks, cloud clocks, all ticking at their own rhythms, some fast, some slow, some asleep altogether. At the center of this quiet wonder stood a towering workshop made of midnight wood and spun glass windows. Tiny cogs and time birds flitted around the building, carrying tools and tucking clouds into drawers. The door opened before they could knock. Standing there was a tall, narrow man with eyes that blinked like candle flames and a beard full of tiny ticking watches. He wore a coat stitched with sunrises and sunsets, and every time he moved, a soft chime followed. "Ah," he said, peering at Twilo, a child made of starlight and memory. Twilo shifted, unsure. "That's me, I think." The Clockmaker smiled gently. "Not to worry. I've been expecting you since before you knew you were coming." They followed him into the workshop, which smelled like old pages, warm metal, and dreams about to begin. Shelves reached the clouds, stacked with timepieces and jars full of frozen seconds. On a great round table lay a map not of land, but of moments. Glowing dots blinked and drifted across it like fireflies. The Clockmaker turned to Twilo. "Time," he said, "is not something you hold. It's something you remember when your heart is ready." Twilo frowned. "I don't remember much." "You remember enough to have come this far," the Clockmaker replied, placing a warm hand on his shoulder. "And I can show you a little more, if you're brave." Twilo nodded slowly. "Okay." The Clockmaker opened a drawer and pulled out a silver compass. It had no needle, just a tiny glowing thread swirling inside like a heartbeat. He placed it in Twilo's hand. "This compass doesn't point north," he said. "It points to your next true moment. Not where, but when." Twilo's fingers closed around it. Instantly, memories flickered. A storm of dreams lost in a jar. A spark he gave away to someone crying in the dark. A promise made to a falling star. His eyes widened. I helped someone before. I gave them my glow." Ember's lantern. Heart pulsed softly. The Clockmaker nodded. "And that choice still echoes. You're not just here to remember. You're here to decide who you'll be next." Twilo looked at the compass again. The glowing thread inside had stilled, pointing softly toward the forest beyond. He turned to the Clockmaker. "Thank you." The Clockmaker bowed slightly. "Dream gently. And remember, the future is not waiting. It's wondering." As they left the workshop, the clocks chimed all at once like a blessing. Twilo clutched the compass close, the glow in his chest stronger now, steadier. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but for the first time, he knew when.